have to have some feeling of safety, and that gets pretty tough. You have 5 gamers remaining. You know, you're probably going to lose to SKT. That means you're looking to win 3 of your next 4 against a very tough field of competition.
Yeah, that definitely means the pressure is on here for both these teams. Heading into Champ Select, I want to see Trick honestly get that Graves, even if it comes at a cost. He seems to be very thrown off in the jungle, even if he gets kind of the signature Lee Sin that he's supposed to be good on. They tunneled a bit on the steal. I really just want a fast-paced jungle that has a lot of options when things go wrong for Trick.
Things have been going wrong for Trick a lot in the opening games, despite some great kicks earlier today. His early game has been fairly weak. Now, G2 Esports, they ban out Rumble, LeBlanc, Syndra. On the side of Flash Wolves, it is Kennen, Lulu, I see Karma, and Ivern still up and available.
Yeah, don't want to get surprised early on by maybe a third red side mid pick that then gets the counters banned out. Some of these more tricky champions are out. Flash Wolves, if they leave Karma open, it's going to be a really tricky situation on the other side.
Yeah, and I mean, they can go for that route, leave Karma open. You also can try to force the choice between making a jungler first pick or the support first pick. This way here, it's probably going to be a Graves for a Lee Sin type trade, one way or the other.
I would imagine so, and I think G2 Esports is actually really happy with this pick ban, getting both Karma and Lulu banned away, because I don't think that's where they would find the success.
Yeah, I agree, and I think one of the interesting choices here for G2 is if you don't care which side of the jungle matchup you play, you can take something else that you prioritize more highly, but in this case, they are focused on that Graves.
Yeah, because they do care. It's been Trick's best champion overall, because his Lee Sin isn't working as well as it did in the European LCS, and his other champions, you know, Rengar saw some nerfs. He never really was an Elise player. So with that in mind, wanting to first pick the Graves, they've been given the gift that they're not giving up any of these super strong shielding supports.
Yeah, and I mean, they're not going to be willing to go to the Ivern, it seems, without a secondary shielding type champion to play one of the protective Sven comps, and as expected, I think we are going to see Lee coming back.
Is this worrisome? We've seen Peanut get his hands on Lee Sin time and time again. Kasa also famous for his Lee Sin. And he, you know, Kasa has had a very good game so far during the first round robin. Now that we're in the second round robin, is that a gamble?
Most great Karsa games though come from him getting a really nice early gank off. It is level 2 gank in the top side, maybe switching sides up level 2 or 3 behind the bot lane with Graves, etc. If G2 prevent that from happening, then they should be able to outpace with the Graves, and the reaction isn't really that surprising here with the Zyro Lee Sin.
I agree, and I think that generally speaking in this tournament, when teams play to their strengths instead of trying to exploit their opponent's weaknesses or account for something like that, they have more success. So it makes sense to put Trick on his strongest champion, even if you're giving Karsa over something that he's also very comfortable on.
Yeah, and they're also attacking the strengths on Flash Wolves. They're basically telling Flash Wolves, you pick your mid laner here, or we're going to make that mid lane matchup even more annoying with the early Orianna. With Syndra and LeBlanc out, she is one of the safest blind pick mids you could do. There is maybe like a Talia that could get picked into it for push, but they can remove that in second ban phase.
Well, second ban phase is going to kick off, and Flashwell's going to go for the blind Kled in the top lane. A couple of counters up there. I mean, Rumble's taken away. It was one of expects most played champions during the splits, and Expect as well, also struggling to find his groove this tournament so far.
And I mean, I think that Expect certainly can default to something like just a tank champion. I think there's a lot of tank matchups that are pretty comfortable into the Kled. So I don't think that it's a super big concern. Generally, the Kled has been used, you know, Krepo talked about this, as a counter to things like Rumble and certain champions like that. So I don't think it's a big measure for concern just yet. One thing I would be a little bit concerned about if I'm G2 is if you get a strong laning AD carry for Flash Wolves, something like, you know, Caitlyn, although Betty's not really super comfortable on it, that can be really tough for Tahm Kench to lane into with Zyra.
Yeah, but Mithy is quite experienced in that matchup in the Tahm Kench. I think we need to track what he skills very early on. He generally goes for a very early thick skin and then tries to have presence in the lane, trade his positioning for minion push that way. The good thing is that they have comfort on the Orianna in the mid lane. They banned out Talia and Rai, so Maple is under pressure. And I don't see MMD just hard carrying top lane if Expect gets his hands on like a Gragas, maybe a Nautilus, but I would just love to see Gragas picked up here on the side of G2 Esports, and then they have plenty of options.
Yeah, I mean, even something like Shen, if you are worried about sidewave control, can, I think, work out quite well here. There's pretty much everything on the board for top lane as far as the tanks go, so you can go a lot of different routes.
Well, a lot of tanks available. What will G2 decide? We see the Jhin once again locked in for Betty. One of the champions that's seen a little bit of play. Definitely a fringe pick at MSI.
And it is interesting because Betty had just stuck to his comfort picks. Jhin is one of the things he likes to play. He essentially only plays the support of AD carries, but taking this over the Ashe and the Varus, he used it earlier in the tournament to great success, had a deathless game, something like 606, and despite it not being meta, he's playing comfort.
Well, it's going to be going into the hyper carry. This time around, Sven's going to be running the Twitch. Going to have some safety, some shielding from the Orianna, the Tom Kench, and now potentially Shen as well.
Exactly. I think that it does lead towards the Shen when you do pick up that hyper carry. You're adding in the Orianna shields, the protection from the Tom Kench, as well as the added safety net of that Shen.
And also, if the Tom Kench does lock on, you have that zone from the Vorpal Blade from the Shen that just prevents all these auto attacks, right? That is usually enough for Sven to get out of the fight stand. I personally would have liked to see a Varus, because I think you can, as Kled charges in, can ult him, and then the ulti will spread to his teammates that kind of travel with him. But he finds more success, or seems to want to play a lane with more range later on.
Talking about range later on and talking about scaling. Vladimir, what do you think of this one from Maple into the team comp that G2's put together?
I mean, Flashwolves is going all in on the backline dive, right? They say Betty doesn't need any appeal because he's so far removed from the fight with W and R that he can just kind of fend for his own. And then it's all up to Karsa to get those signature flanks off, while hopefully MMD pincers and Maple just flashes in.
And I think that the Kled-Vladimir combo is actually something that is quite strong because you can utilize the ultimate as a way in on the Vladimir. A lot of people talk about the difficulties that Vladimir has getting to backline, but this is a low mobility Twitch. This is a speed up from MMD here too, and I think that with the Jhin ultimate being opened up, there's a lot of chaos that could be created in a fight. And
I think we see again here that Flashwolves come with the offensive strategy here, and G2, they have drafted things that could react well. You know what, Kled ultis? I'm just going to walk up and take it for my team. We see Vladimir dive, we'll use Devour. The problem is, every time G2 has drafted a reactionary composition where they have all the answers, they have fumbled in the early game, and then this just got ran over.
Yeah, you have to survive early game in order to be able to react later game and have your team comp come together. But on the side of G2, it does feel like the Flashwolves comp will be relatively difficult to execute. No traditional frontline tank. A lot of fairly squishy, high-damage champions, especially as the early to mid-game rolls out.
I definitely agree it is hard to execute, but if you get ahead, I think this comp is incredibly snowbally. If you have a strong tank who can step up and tank that Kled charge, great. But if you're behind, that tank just gets evaporated right off the bat, and the fight is essentially over. So, you know, we need to see a strong early game from G2.
We need to see a strong early game. It hasn't happened in 5 games yet. Maybe in the 6th, it's the charm. It's G2 Esports taking on Flashwolves. This is the first game in the second round robin. Every team has faced everybody. G2 at 5-0, and you can see SKT at 5-0. G2 and Flashwolves now 2 wins, 3 losses. Every win counts because everyone is tied.
You may beat G2 in the early game 5 games in a row, Trevor, but nobody beats them in the early game 6 games in a row. This is their time to shine. They have the signature Graves, perks on Orianna, Sven and Mithy. Definitely looking forward to that laning phase.
Yeah, signature Graves, Trick, he's given up first blood in 3 of his 5 previous games. He actually donated first blood thanks to taking a Realm Warp the last time they played Flashwolves. So my eyes are on him and his impact, whether positive or negative for the European LCS.
I'm also really interested to see how well they adapt going into the second round. Krepo, you talk a lot about how G2's strength is adaptation. They learned from the games they play. They're a very intelligent team, and now they have played everyone once. They have a fresh slate. Let's see what they can do.
Yeah, that is domestically when they have weeks and weeks where they first script these partners, they then analyze them, and then they bring the answers on the Rifts, why they were so far ahead in Europe. A couple things I wanted to track this game. Is MMD going to have like an early brush camp versus expect? No, he's already in the lane. I want to follow what Mithy will be skilling into the Zyra matchup. And more importantly, how much CS Sven can get under pressure, because drafting Twitch is nice for late game, but it comes at a great cost early on.
Cost early on. G2, that's their problem. It's a tongue lash for Mithy right now. We'll see where the level 2 goes and what impact that has. Sawdust's done a good job of spreading those seeds, and a little bit of assistance for Karsa on the Bramble Dash.
Yeah, the tongue lash makes Tom Kench at least have some ranged presence. You just want to walk up. They're actually happy with what's happening here. Sword Art spawning plants early forces the push. Now, if Mithy can draw an auto attack or 2, the minions will attack whoever's aggressing on him, and then that will make the wave push. So essentially, that's what you're doing. Technically, Flashwolves here are over pushing. That could punish the jungler, but it doesn't look like Karsa's making use of that.
Yeah, and I think Flashwolves really are just trying to shove it in as fast as possible to start harassing the Twitch under the turret. If you can start working away at these guys, it can work pretty well. And you know, something I do like to see in Tom Kench lanes is a focus on the support. More often than not, that's the better target.
Yeah, you need to burn through these potions. The problem is if you play heavy like tower push against the Tom Kench, it's quite risky, because if he flash autos you with you, he will devour you and spit you into the turret, and then suddenly the jungler's there.
Where would Karsa go? If I'm looking at these lanes, it feels like MMD should be able to push into expect early on relatively well. Maybe will be pushed in potentially by Perks, and Trick is setting up on this pushing lane down bottom. The tongue lash goes wide though. Betty's able to sidestep. Summoner heals already used. Flashes thrown down. Exhaust traded as well. Get the gobble if you can. Mozzie gets one. That's not going to be enough for a kill just yet. Spits out Sword Art for first blood to G2.
And this is entirely pre-planned because Trick went Raptors, red Scarlet Crab, and he was level 3. So either he found the ward early on, or he was running that one experienced squint. So G2, they're drafting these combat-heavy bot lanes that obviously play very weak into ranged push, but if you let them push, your jungler shows up. This isn't a plan in the early game for G2 Esports.
Yeah, your all-in is incredibly powerful, and having the Graves level 3 this early, Mithy and Sven are able to go full aggression, move in, and pick up pretty easy first blood, plus force all the summoners, which adds more threat of return game.
Oh, I'm looking forward to those summoners being down, what that means, because both duo lanes, all 4 summoners are blown. Trick gets the assist, and the kill secure was picked up by Mithy. Take a quick glimpse of Maple being shoved in. No surprises on this Vladimir. He's going to be sitting under his turret for a long time, Azael.
Yeah, and I mean, he's pretty happy as long as he's not being bullied by this Orianna. He can scale up. You really do need to get some levels on the Vladimir to start going.
Yeah, I just checked. Trick did not kill a ward early on. See, he must be running that experience squint. So definitely predetermined right here. And this is great to break that continuous death by 1,000. Cuts in the bot lane. Poke lanes win by keeping you in lane, removing your potions. Getting that free base will help you so much.
And this is one of those adaptations we've talked about, something that is pre-planned. And sometimes pre-planned paths, clever routes like this, can be what breaks the funk of that early game.
That's definitely going to help out. Look at this, MMD, there's no Skull yet. Follow that Rage meter. Pocket Pistol comes backwards and Trick gets a kill.
I was actually really scared that the smoke screen was going to trigger Skarl. Every damage instance gives you something, so you want to hit him with like big spells. Small hits over time get you faster to Skarl, I believe. So quite dangerous, but really good setup. Trick is back in his element.
I don't believe my eyes. This is a pre-level 6 Graves with 2 successful ganks in the 2 lanes that Flash Rules will be pushing towards G2.
Yeah, this is exactly what we were talking about at Champs. Like, we need to get Trick on the Graves, and it is working out.
Yeah, I mean, you play to your comfort. He has strong gank assist in both top and bottom. His path has been intelligent, and I think that Expect also deserves a lot of credit. I mean, he was winning out on his trades very heavily, had MMD already dismounted, so Trick could come up for an easy cleanup.
And that might just be the communication finally getting back to the G2 lineup, because it's much more comfortable to trade aggressively if you know your jungler is going to help you in like 30 seconds in case it goes wrong, right?
Well, it's showing. 2 kills to 0 at 5 minutes. It's a little over 1,000 gold in the lead. Now, Casa finds the Sonic Wave. Tempest and Cripple comes out as well. Perks, no Shockwave to fire back, but he trades well with the Thunderlords.
Yeah, and that was never really something that's looking for a kill. Karsa gets some damage out. Vladimir's farming under his turret. It's just trying to help him with lane priority because Perks has no pots left.
Yeah, and also Maple, he took the brunt of that pick ban pressure. He got 2 mid laners removed early on. Then Orianna picked, and then the 2 best matchups into Orianna were banned out in the second ban phase, so he's had to dig deep for this Vladimir, and obviously Vladimir very early on suffers from getting pushed in.
Definitely does, but at level 6 now, Perks is chunked a little bit low, has no more potions. He has to respect the all-in potential that can come out from the Vladimir.
And that makes that gank so great, you know, sometimes just a little bit of pressure can tiptoe the matchups in the other way, but here's Trick in the bot lane again.
No summoners.
All right, gonna dash forward. Where's the dash? Shadow dash from Expect is gonna catch Sword Art. Betty's the target as well. Expect's on the board. Sven gets another.
This is so well done by G2, forcing out Summoner's bot, killing top. They can shed all down because they have the experience advantage in that matchup too, and G2 just looks like they're firing on all cylinders. They've been so coordinated.
They look almost as good as the Gigabyte Marines in the early game.
Let's not be ridiculous here, Trevor.
Let's not give them too many compliments here, but they look like G2 in Europe. This is finally kind of the level of play, coordination, organization that we're used to seeing from them, just outclassing their opponents here with just very easy moves if you look at it. Yeah, what a surprise. You run button, you use the Shen ulti, but if you time things well, you don't need the greatest mechanical outplays.
I think they even played very well within the fight. You know, Expect holding his taunt for a long time, seeing if he even needed it for the Zyra, and then uses it to secure the kill. It's just looking very, very good right now for G2.
Yeah, just a fantastic start, and G2 got themselves some control wards in the books. First sort of tier of items, but, you know, not a huge amount of pressure on the tower. Is going to be content with those kills thus far. G2, let's see how good their mid-game is going to be if they can extend this lead spread.
Yeah, they have to extend it. Flashers always react with vision as well, though. You see 3 control wards right there. They place them very well in unison, and they also defend that vision and build on it. So that is something that G2 need to watch out for. If they go for their signature kind of slow-scaling game, Flashers will not hesitate to take the map back.
They definitely won't, and you also have to remember, Karsa is now level 6, Vladimir is level 6. Karsa has his summoners up and certainly can make a play to try to get a kill and return some of the pressure back.
Yeah, Mithy here as well. Look at the item build. You could afford a Sidestone, but why not upgrade your Relic Shield? You know, get a little bit more money in the bank here. They're very heavily focused on this laning phase.
And I think especially when you are actually just letting your opponent push you in like that, you don't necessarily need the wards out on the map.
As long as you can defend the control wards, that's definitely true here. But that could be a breaking point if they make one mistake. Suddenly, the lack of Sidestone may punish G2 Esports.
I'm looking at those control wards. Prepper, there's 3 on the bottom quadrant.
It's nice.
Karsa is going to get counter-ganked now by Trick. Counter-gank is a strong word. Actually, it is a counter-gank. Trick goes in, end of the line. Collateral damage gets fired. Here comes Expect. He's got Maple. Trick survives and takes Karsa with him.
Where did Expect come from? Nobody expected him suddenly. Like, he just dashes in, rams a dagger through the opposition, and he just wins out that fight here. Another great roam from Expect.
Yeah, and I mean, Trick was in position as well. They read this gank like a book. They see Lee Sin at 6. They know that Perkz is a summoner down, and Flash Wolves go for it anyway, and they get punished huge.
Yeah, we always talk Karsa Maple, Karsa Maple. Well, that's where the gank is going. If you look at, let's look at the top lane. That's pushed in. Bot lane is pushing in very heavily too, so like the only place the gank could go is in the mid lane.
And Expect was already moving before this gank even started.
Yeah, he even dropped a control ward in the enemy jungle. Oh, it's so well played. Vorpal Blade travels and just finishes him off.
I mean, as soon as Maple flashes forward and Trick is right there, you know you made an oopsie, and it's like, oh, that feels bad.
It does. And looking at Trick, this game, 1-0-5. We're before 10 minutes. 3,000 gold lead, and compare it to the previous stats of this group stage.
Yeah, we're SKT right now. They're looking for the perfect tournament. G2, they're looking for the perfect game so far. Still on track, baby.
Very early starts. MMD with those vicious strikes and a bear trap on a rope. He's going to be trading with Expect. Got himself the Tiamat. A small CS advantage, but Flash Wolves, okay, G2 have done everything right for 10 minutes. You know, they've ganked well, they've had suitable vision. How do Flash Wolves bounce back from this significant of a deficit this early on?
I think it's looking for picks. I think it's utilizing the combination of ultimates with Fled and Lee Sin and Vladimir. You know, despite being a bit behind, if you get the perfect engage and eliminate someone like that Twitch right off the bat, the fight can turn around.
If you can find that perfect engage. It feels very difficult. It's important to remember that when G2 played Flash Wolves 2 days ago, yesterday, Carolyn second, Trick gets traded on. Stand United, maybe a touch late, not going to be the end of the world. They get Karsa's Flash though.
Yeah, this Flash, and more importantly, they're working together on vision as well. The arena is igniting here as well. I'm looking at some wave mechanics. While they're waiting for the wave to arrive here in the crowd, they're slapping their thunder sticks. That's why these guys are so loud. They have optimized cheering here in Brazil.
Looks like Mithy is actually moving up mid, perhaps trying to help with that vision and really try to get some damage down on this turret because they're taking over the top side of the jungle.
Yeah, and with that mid pressure, actually, Mithy can just take somebody with him, taxi to the bottom lane. Perkz and Mithy could arrive behind enemy AD carry and get bot turret from that. That is the strength of a Tahm Kench level 6. You really want to use that Abyssal Voyage to unlock objectives.
They do need to be careful though. Betty is coming up. Jhin ultimate is available, but it's going to bail out on the play.
All right, couple of ultimates used to put pressure on this mid lane tower. Perkz with the shockwave, collateral damage as well. Taking a look.
I hear Abyssal Voyage. I think they're going bot.
All right, MMD is going to jump back onto Skull and run away. There's the Abyssal. Down for tower, first blood still available. That would increase the gold lead to 5,000. However, Flash Wolves hold.
It's one of those satisfying sound effects. You know, like as a bot laner, when your support's gone and you hear that on the map, like, oh, they're coming for me. Backup's coming, and now Flash Wolves react bot, so mid gets pushed in. Like, just push and pull. Never really have to fight them. Use all these for pressure. If you have this gold lead, it's much easier to just get the turrets.
I'd also say the solo gold going over to Orianna is so good because this Orianna-Vladimir matchup really depends on who is outpacing the other. If you can stay ahead, the Vladimir never has a chance to kind of sustain you down, and if Vladimir's ahead, Orianna becomes helpless.
Orianna is not going to be helpless this game. 1-0-1 plus 20 CS. Already got a tower to her name. Another one in the bottom lane will fall quickly. And looking at the top, every time we jump top, by the way, Expect seems to be out-trading MMD's Kled thus far. He's got that Balmy Cinder and Ninja Tab, even though there's no damage on the tower, he's keeping MMD at bay.
Yeah, Kled is fantastic in the squishy matchups because he can really burst with Bear Trap on a rope, and that's really high damage and impact. The problem is, you're not gonna burst through a Shen, especially if he gets an early gank. These like tank versus carry matchup. If the tank gets a good gank off and gets slightly ahead, Ninja Tabi and tank animation is just so efficient.
And this is also not a world in which this is a Kennen or a Fiora or something where it's just like, oh, he just gets his items, then he starts to win. It doesn't really work like that in this matchup. As long as the Shen can stay relevant, the Kled is not going to be able to just take over that lane.
Yeah, well, luckily for Expect, his entire team is relevant. Look down the kill score, 2-1-1. Everyone's got involved. It's a gigantic lead before 15 minutes. Take a quick look up top as MMD once again to the bear trap on a rope. A little bit of support from Trick in the river.
Karsa's coming up.
Soon, actually, Trick has decided to back away. Expect to be under pressure. Karsa not going to find an opportunity.
Yeah, Expect needs to yield it. Looking at Perks though, he used that solo goal that Zale was talking about earlier to really invest in magic penetration. If you get that early lead, just sitting in lost chapters enough. You don't need to go full Anomaton. Perks right now has really strong all-in potential. This is a very strong early spike for Oriana.
Especially because of Vladimir is not itemizing defensive. He's trying to rush towards that Proto Belt instead of sitting on something like a Negatron, which can really help to negate that advantage that Perks has.
And Maple's smart enough to know this, so he's never going to combat Perks. But what that means is Perks will push up the wave, disappear, and start influencing these side lanes. The only thing that can go wrong is right here if Expect dies.
All right, Expect's going to get pulled back by the bear trap. Skull is triggered. Karsa's got the Dragon's Rage, and actually Expect is putting a lot of damage down. Mithy's brought Perks. That's one already with the attack and the dissonance. Shockwave not even going to get needed. There's the hula hoop sombrero. Perks doesn't need it. Still gets a double kill with the attack.
I mean, that one was looking a little bit desperate from Flash Wolves. That is a very healthy Shen who is ahead. You cannot burst this guy down like that.
By the way, that control ward that Expect put earlier, still inside the red corner of the jungle, that Betsy and Maple just walked past.
I love it when you talk dirty to me, Trevor. Right there. Very healthy Shen indeed. Eats his vegetables. That was just, yeah, grasping at straws. Every move by Flash Wolves is being read, and at this point, this is the point of the game where G2 has excelled in Europe. They know how to cleanly play out these games. The problem is they were always so far behind in the early game at this tournament that they couldn't really show their closing ability.
And I mean, this is just, MMD is almost ready to dismount. He's not ever going to have the amount of damage, and you can see Mithy is already moving up here with Perks, and even if they did come, this kill wouldn't work.
Yeah, but just the range at which this is possible too shows you the strength of the Tahm Kench in this tournament, why he'll likely become more of a meta pick within this tournament. With Perks was at the tier 2 turret. CG on a Vladimir, he takes 5 steps backwards, gets in the belly, arrives top, and helps.
A cheeky little grin there from Expect. 204 on his Shen. And as it stands, 8 kills to 0, 8,000 gold up. I'm gonna wait for stats to verify, but I'm pretty confident that's the largest gold lead at 15 minutes across the group stage, and it's in the opening game of the second round robin.
And there's so much easy gold for them to pick up still. I mean, this bot tier 2 tower is 1 auto away. They have full pressure in mid lane. Top has already fallen. We just need to see how well G2 can close this out, because this should be their game from here.
Yeah, there's also 4 jungle camps up and a dragon, and that's something that is very often overlooked when you're playing so deep in the enemy map. Trying to rotate for these tier 2 turrets, a lot of teams forget that there's camps in their own jungle. They take away the opposition jungle, but this is actually a mark of G2 domestically. They will take both sides of the jungle. That's why Trick doesn't have the highest activity, but he's very efficient in his pathing, and it's so catered towards his Graves pick as well. No champion really clears much faster than him.
Yeah, it really suits the play style, and once Trick has enough power, uses that Graves to impact mid to late game team fights, where he also has exceptional ability.
Yeah, especially on a champion like this where you can make a lot of use of the farm. Graves is not someone like the Lee Sin who is going to fall off as much. You're always a big contributor, especially against a relatively low-range team. With the Vladimir and the Lee Sin and the Kled, there's always someone for you to hit.
Yeah, and especially if you consider that Truget got some nerfs, so if you play Graves into a full AP comp, the lack of MR you get from Truget will maybe hurt you, but there is only Maple really that is bringing that sword art, maybe, but he's generally not going to interact too much with Trick himself, so Truget's still very valuable if he comes into a duel against MMD, against Karsa, even against Betty.
I want to step back from this game just a little bit because it really has been the G2 show, right? And we talked about the results.
Let's stay here.
We talked about the results, 2 wins, 3 losses, and how every team now will play, again, 5 more games. The expected result, you're going to lose to SKT, and every win you can pick up against Flash Wolves, WE, Gigabyte Marines, puts you 1 step closer to playoffs in that pool 1 seed for Worlds, which is the first reward at MSI.
It really does, and people have talked a lot about the pressure on G2, but what about the pressure mounting on Flash Wolves now? They were supposed to be the ones to challenge SKT. They're 2-3. They're now facing a 2-4 opening record, and they have not looked at all like the team we were expecting coming into this tournament.
Yeah, and they also came out and said it. I think it was Snake who said it doesn't matter how good you dominate domestically, you may just fall apart internationally because you can only smash teams so hard if they're not giving you enough opposition. That's the problem in G2 Esports as well. They dominate Europe overall. Even when the fans are against them, like in Hamburg, and then they come to an international tournament, these guys practice super hard. Like they really hate losing. It's not like they came out unprepared, and then like, dropping those early games was a big mental hit for them. I'm really glad to see them bounce back.
I really do think that in pro gaming, one of the things that you'll learn is you're only as good as your competition. It's so much harder to really move a tier above, and these teams are trying to do that and seeing the difference between, you know, SKT, who has those great practice partners, and some of the other regions who don't have as many.
But at the same time, though, we can't take things away from like the truly the greatest, like Faker. He will improve no matter what the competition. Or SKT, they constantly innovate the meta game. When they flexed the dual Lulu Karma in the finals versus KT, they just made them look like, honestly, like they were smurfing.
Yeah.
At certain points in the game, even when KT got a lead, SKT still came back. So that is the greatness you see there. But overall, it is definitely true. Like if you have bad scrims and you get some gameplay patterns that you get away with, the same way with Svenska. Like those invades, they probably pay off a lot in scrims. The problem is on stage when you get against better players, you get punished.
Yeah, better players, higher pressure scenario. We talked about sort of play styles and histories. Look at these at 20 stats for G2 and Flash Wolves, obviously with the records they have. Not the greatest. First blood 20%. First tower, Flash was pretty good at picking that one up. But both teams average a deficit as we get close to the 20-minute mark.
Yeah, Flash Wolves, they definitely are not getting that first tower even right now. 19 minutes in the game, 0 turns to 3, which is a very rare occurrence. And it doesn't seem like they can fight their way out of this gridlock.
Hey, perfect game still in the cards here for G2 Esports. Also, the previous gold lead record, MSI 2017, was around 7,000 gold at 20. It looks like G2 is going to break that record as well. So this will potentially be the heaviest handed defeat of MSI 2017. Perks and Expect going to try to take this inner turret down in the top lane. MMD has already popped off Scarl.
It's Shockwave there from first.
Second time this game. Trick in a 1v3 almost takes down Betty. Sonic Wave connects, but Casa does not follow the Lee Syndrome. Support from Perks coming around, and Stand United still not triggered.
And in a similar fashion where you need to attack the global if you're playing versus Shen, you need to attack the engage if you're playing versus a Scarl. Because otherwise, there's nothing Flash Wolves can do. They can't flank engage with Zyra because she's a disengaged champion.
And I mean, one of the beautiful things about this game is anytime you see a fight happening somewhere, G2 is already getting something on the other side of the map. When you're this far ahead, it is not a 1v1 matchup. You need more players for every G2 person on the map. That means as long as G2 is pushing constantly and moving around the map well, they can always take advantages elsewhere.
They can always go for the cross map. The only thing they need to do is then respect that when Flash will show up with 2 or 3 extra members, that they yield the pressure right there, not giving away needless advantages. This is why Kars is going a really large path around the bottom side. Flash was trying to get something.
Ah, look at Trick. He's already gone in. Hemoplate comes down. Stranglethorns is coming up. Stand United has bought enough time, and now Perks has arrived. Come on, Protect! Keeps Trick alive!
Oh, the perfect game is gone!
The perfect game is ruined! Karsa sends his god fist into Trick's face. Now Karsa's running away with his life. Expect, misses the taunt because Karsa sidesteps. Still beautiful to behold on that champion.
I mean, Flash Wolves, they get a kill on the board, but pressure top lane. It's already been pushed all the way in, and Sven is rotating around here. You can see him waiting on the side on a bush to see if anyone is going to try to defend this a little bit too boldly.
Yeah, already sitting on 2 items here. He can unleash and just kill the right there. If he just pressed R, it was enough. Perks is now being shadowed by Mithy, so he should be able to survive. G2 Esports looking for their 5th consecutive turret this game.
And pressure on the bot side constantly. That turret is so low. They were just pushing around. They're controlling a vision in the jungle, farming both sides of the map, and that is why the gold lead is just exploding.
Yeah, and of course, with this stage in the game, now G2 needs to overstep, right?
Yeah.
10,000 gold lead, 20 minutes in. There's actually not a lot of objectives, to push for just yet. We'll expand that in a minute. Here's a replay of Trick giving up the perfect game.
This is Karsa doing the right thing with his team, heavily committing to one side of the map and hoping that you get enough. The problem is, yeah, these members will be so damn tanky, they will have so much damage, so Flash Wolves, they're in front of an impossible task. Barring a Baron steal, there is no way to come back.
I mean, even a Baron steal at this point, I think, just moves you closer to having some hope. It's not turning the game around. And G2, a lot of times you can criticize teams for playing very slowly when they are this far ahead, but they are always bleeding their opponents out of this situation. So I think, up to this point, I have no real criticism for them.
It's also why in Europe, when they play, you kind of blink your eyes twice and suddenly G2 have a 3,000 gold lead. But no real pivotal moment has happened. There hasn't been any triple kills or massive outplays. They just play really efficient League of Legends where they go for all the camps, they push the right waves, they maximize side lane farm. They're the team that picks up the most farm from 15 to 30 in raw numbers in European LCS. because they just maximize these side lanes.
Yeah, they've been maximizing every lane for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Every single gank, every play has resulted in an advantage. MMD actually used charge for some reason. I didn't quite see exactly why, whether it was under pressure from Expect or not, but that charge has not been used offensively a single time in the 23 minutes, and that was a, first phase pick. Flash Wolves eventually lose their 5th tower.
And you can see now that G2 and Flash Wolves are really trying to prioritize vision around the Baron. That is really the next big objective for G2 is they're closing out on the Dragons are down, the outer turrets are out, and they really do need to try to get control of this area.
Yeah, and if we turn our attention to the Flash Wolves, I think they just really exposed a major flaw in their team. MMD got drafted to Blind Rumble yesterday, I believe. Now he gets drafted a blind, I will say Scar, a blind Kled here. It feels like he has a very narrow champion pool that they're trying to just give him a comfort pick rather than a meta pick that he will play poorly, but he's getting punished harder and harder every single game.
Now Maple's looking like he's going to get punished. Sanguine Pool will buy some time. Threw down the Hemo Plague as well. I'm looking at the mini-map. Still, Expect continues to shove MMD backwards. Expect's got that Titanic Hydra and Sunfire Cape, winning every single trade. And it's the mid lane's going down as well.
And it's also an item build that's heavily focused on push. You can shove those lanes so fast as Expect here, and he has the Stand United to join, so G2 are straight onto the Baron.
Man, what a statement here from G2. 2 wins, 3 losses. This will be their 3rd win of the tournament. Swordart is just blown up where he stands. Perks and Expect trying to run down Carter. Expect's going to be able to solo him out. Spurs Refuge buys some time. Baron secured actually by Miffy. Trick did get the smite down once again. It's a retreat, not a charge, because MFD's running for his life. Only a 3rd death, that's what G2 are looking for. Scarlet's going to avoid the shadow dashes. Maple is being burned alive in his Sanguine Pool. Dominating. Sven gets another onto MMD. And Betty watches his team fall around him.
Flash Wolves are just getting decimated here. This has got to be one of the cleanest games, if not the cleanest game of the tournament here from G2, and what a way to start the 2nd round of games.
Yeah, in a phenomenal fashion, G2 Esports bounce back. They tie their score back to 3-3, and their hopes of reclaiming that #1 seed for Europe are still alive.
The largest gold lead at 15 minutes, the largest gold lead at 20 minutes. Every single objective and only one criticism.
Trick is inting again.
Gave up the perfect game.
We'll let it slide this time, but just watch the Baron. This is really the only way that Flash Wolves could do anything about this is a steal. So you have Perks already zoning on the outside, ult in the Shen, take away the only chance that Flash Wolves has to make a positive play there.
Now, man, you got to step back and look at G2. After that 50-minute loss to TSM, where technically they had lost the game for around 46 minutes of those 50, not managing to take down the nexus of those last few hits. The psychological hit, G2 and 8, is it coming back? Is it a possibility to have this kind of game?
G3 and 7, baby.
Going up every year, G4 and 6 next year, tying it up in 2 years or so. No, I think what's great is the fact that they, well, seemingly they're playing a much weaker version of their play on international tournaments still, for the majority of the game. They're not getting affected game to game, so it seems like they're going into every single game fresh again, but something broke down for sure. G2 Esports was a shadow of their former selves in the first 5 games here. 6th one is the one on the money.
There we go. You talk about shadow of their former selves. Flash Wolves, they have an on switch and an off switch. They go 0-2 day 1, 2-0 day 2. They're on the verge of going 0-2 day 3. And this was a finalist team coming in, the expectation. So, you know, we talk about the benefits of G2 bouncing back. How on earth do Flash Wolves again bounce back from another 0-2 day?
But G2 also attacked their core, right? Like we talked about Karsa, Maple, Sora. Now the final engage comes in, but it's gonna be tricky.
It's indeed. MMD gets a bear trap on a rope, but look at Sven. He's already on a killing spree. Taken down Karsa. Flash Wolves are retreating. The charge had no damage behind it. Expect kills the weeds of Sword Art. And now Maple's cut off from the rest of his team, gets devoured by Mithy and spit out to Expect.
Yeah, Karsa was still jungling while Sora was attacked in the bot lane. Maple was attacked in picks and bans, and by the time Karsa tried to fight back, it was simply too late. And with only a single kill, G2 Esports are going to take it.
G2 Esports with the most dominating victory of the MSI 2017 group stage. Take down Flash Wolves to go 3-3.
Just such a good game from them. And I mean, this has got to give you so much confidence going forward. We talked about how tough of a schedule these teams have from 2 and 3 to make it into the final games, and they're off to a great start.
Look at the expressions on the faces of Flash Wolves and G2. G2 earlier today, distraught at the TSM loss. This time, ecstatic at the Flash Wolves victory.
Yeah, and I'm just happy for the guys that they get to bask in the fandom again. Look at Perks, like he had to go through so many like negativity and comments when he tried to portray the bad boy image that the fans seemingly wanted. But then when he gave it to them, he couldn't really deal with it, in my opinion. Now, even in Hamburg in the finals when they're playing so well, they didn't have the crowd behind them. He gets to walk around here and you see his face light up every time he sees the cheers. Like, oh, you're cheering for me?
Yeah,
I guess so. Like, let me just like, enjoy this.
I just don't like this group stage is causing me more questions than answers. Gigabyte Marines take down Team WE in one of their most impressive performances. G2, who have looked really, you know, weak all tournament long, have the most dominant victory all of a sudden.
And I think one of the important things here for G2 is also the way in which they won. A lot of criticism has been leveled towards Trick and Expect. They both had a great game, and I think that that can spell good things for them going forward.
But it is Expect on Shen and Trick and Graves. And these have been long-lasting signature, like comfort picks for them. The problem is, any team that is doing their drafting properly will not give Graves over to Trick. And if they do, they will take Karma Ulu in return, and then can G2 deal with that aspect?
And the cheers there, of course, that was for Sven making his way off stage a little bit earlier today, actually. He spent around 10 or 15 minutes just signing the Thunder.